Three, two, one, let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a much needed Third Culture Rant segment of the George Habib channel. This is the segment where we talk with people who were born somewhere, moved elsewhere, and belonging nowhere. Today, I have our guest, Adrian. He is currently living in Montreal, and we are lucky to have him as his schedule is all over the place and pretty hectic for me. Say hello,
Yeah, it's a
Adrian.
bit everywhere. It's a bit everywhere. How's it going, everyone? Happy
Perfect.
to be here. I'm loving the support. Uh, you've been doing an awesome job so far, George. So look forward to see where this goes.
So far, don't jinx me, buddy. So, yeah, before we get on to the topic of today, I just want to say we are currently collecting questions for the Q&A video I discussed previously, where I will make a video answering the questions you guys have for me in celebration for hopefully reaching the 100 subscriber mark. We are at 93 or 94 subscribers right now, so any help reaching there would be appreciated. As usual, I've got the questions on the side. I've got this killer mug. I don't know if you guys can see it. Good enough. And we've got our amazing guest, whose topic of the day will be being an immigrant in Canada.
Fun times.
Fun times. So, Adrian, before I ask you the questions, the definition of a third culture person is the mixed identity that a child assumes, influenced both by their parents' culture and the culture in which they are raised. Do you identify as this?
Oh, 100%.
Perfect. And Adrian, please tell us a bit about your background.
So, for the people who haven't met me yet, who are watching, uh, grew up in Dubai, was in Shwefat school. That's where George and I had first met when we were like 3 years old. Childhood besties. Um, uh, from there, went to Lebanon, studied in AUB, had a bit of a rough patch there, moved back, took a year off, worked in a few different fields, graduated with psychology and worked as a therapist for a couple of years, and now here I am working in gaming. Learned a lot along the way, met a lot of people, a lot of great ones, a lot of not so great ones who both of which taught me a lot, and sort of like made me the person who I am now, which I am grateful for. Uh,
We're all
but yeah,
grateful for that.
it's weird being from a third culture, especially in the environment that we grew up, knowing that my environment may have been a bit different than a lot of people, even within the same school. Um, it's a very different perspective that you sort of get than someone who was raised in their parents' home country or in an immigrant city like Montreal or Toronto or any Western country that has
For sure.
immigration policy.
So, Adrian, I want to ask, you said where you are right now. Where
Yeah.
are you right now?
Mentally or physically?
Locationally.
Locationally, I'm in Montreal right now.
Perfect. And Montreal is in Canada, to some of the people who don't know, probably from the Middle East persuasion.
Yeah, it's in French Canada, so I've probably heard of it even less.
Ooh, we are not getting to French Canada. So, given that, when did you immigrate to Canada?
Moved here in July 2020, mid-pandemic.
Nice.
Best time to relocate. Best time to have to start over again.
The best time to fly around, spread some love, spread some COVID, be happy, stuff
Spread
like
the
that.
Rona. I'm so convinced that I am immune to the virus, and it's not because I have like some genetic advantage. I think it's my depression. So the COVID comes in, then just kills itself, and then it's great. It works well.
That's a very interesting superpower. Defensive depression.
uh, whole new whole new entry into the DSM-5.
Oh, dude. Okay, no comment. Okay, and why did you immigrate to Canada?
Inappropriate joke number one of the podcast.
There is no such thing as an inappropriate joke. Everything's either a joke, good or bad. Anyways, when did you guys immigrate to? No, wait, why did you immigrate to Canada?
Well, having grown up in Dubai, you would know that the ability to be a citizen is pretty much impossible, right? Like the most you can get is a golden visa, which is about 10 years. But for that, you have to show like some distinction in your ability to uh, help the country, whether it's in business and work and whatever. That being the case, if you were to lose your job, you'd have to go back to the country your passport is from, which in my case is Syria.
Ooh.
And I don't think that needs any introduction as to how the case may be there.
Oh, no,
So
we don't need to mention ISIS or the civil war or the occupation or the clashes or the shooting or the
exactly.
bombings or the poor
So
cuisine. Okay.
poor cuisine. Hey, let's not throw rocks in our glass house, my friend.
Oh, excuse me. You are not challenging Lebanese cuisine.
It's not a challenge if we're gonna win anyway.
Yeah, the
Anyway,
Lebanese are going to win. I get you.
I said we, not Lebanese.
Yeah, Lebanon all the way.
So I'm here in the capacity of as a refugee. I'm a skin nafar. So yeah, I've moved here with a refugee status. Granted, that's not exactly a privilege a lot of people have.
Yeah, but
Like
being a refugee is not a privilege.
the way, well, it's not, but being able to have been selected the way that we were is a privilege.
Yeah. And also the thing is that
there
when
are
you
people
say you
suffering a
have
lot more.
to, when you say you guys moved to Canada because frankly, like the passport you have isn't the greatest for travel, let's say, if we want to be kind.
It's
I
not the
totally get
greatest
you.
for a lot of things. I mean,
Yeah.
travel is probably the least of the problems.
Yeah. But like
But
I
to
totally get you because I'm also, well, you're going to be Canadian. I'm already Canadian. My family already moved from Dubai years before you. We already went through the whole process to become Canadian citizens. And the thing is, like, I get it. We get it. Many people in the Middle East and probably Africa, East Asia, South America get it. The unfortunate thing is sometimes the passports we originally hold do not help us in any way. It's very difficult to move around. They don't confer any benefits from the government. Sometimes they give us a stigma. So our parents and sometimes ourselves, in a search of better lives, we do move elsewhere. We do try to get the citizenship of that place, and even though it's poorly portrayed in the media, we do try to integrate a lot of times because it's not like many of us come into these countries and mooch off the services and then be freeloaders. We pay taxes the same as any other citizen, and we do try to make it a better place for our future generations.
I think one thing to add is that immigrants really do try to, well, their work ethic is a lot more intense than people who are from here
I would say
because
better.
at the end of the day, as an immigrant, you still have this idea in the back of your head that they can get rid of you at any point in time. So you're really working your ass off to prove that you belong here.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know why some people might be getting pissed off at that. But my friend, if I come to this country with zero experience in this country and I take your job, that just basically means you're pretty shit at your job.
Yeah. I look, I agree and I disagree. The disagreement comes from that sometimes immigrants are taken advantage of and they're given other people's jobs simply because the law doesn't protect them enough from exploitative wages and conditions. But in a place like Canada, where I believe, frankly, that's not an issue,
Mhm.
if someone takes your job and you haven't really applied for that job in terms of an actual application or in terms of bettering your education, it's a fair job market.
Yep.
Of course, an immigrant wants a better life for themselves and their family. Of course, they're going to compete in the job market with you. And they're still paying taxes. They're still paying the same taxes as everyone else. They're still funding healthcare systems, road repairs, and all that jazz. Now, Adrian, before I go on to the next question, specifically on the topic you just mentioned, do you think immigrants have a better work ethic because they're used to a poor standard of living? So
No,
hard work to go above that is a
no,
fair trade?
no. It's culture.
What do you mean?
It's culture. Your culture in like so our culture and a lot of cultures, the further east you go, really starts with how you are seen within society because we are collectivistic.
Wish?
I'm sorry?
Wish? Face? Wish?
Yeah, لازم تبيض وجه, So that's why there's a lot of
Just
push.
one sec. To the non-Arabic viewers, wish just means face.
Yeah.
Like people care about how their face, their image looks.
Um, so if so I deeply think that there's a lot of push from parents for their kids to be successful for two things. On one hand, a lot of parents know already how tough it is to make money, so they want you to aim for the jobs that are going to guarantee you money regardless, which tend to be medicine, engineering, law. These are high paying jobs. More recently, like IT, financing, because if you're good at financing and good with numbers, you can make money.
Especially in Canada.
Exactly. So they're looking out for you in that respect, but also in the way that it's like, well, what are people gonna think if my son is a graphic designer? And it matters less the more money you make, I
Right.
think.
So this is basically why they strive to work harder in Canada.
It's not that they strive to work harder, but the culture is around you have to be the best in any position you're in, because if it's a job that doesn't make a lot of money and you want to be there, you better be the best at it so you can make a lot of money, so that we can be proud of you.
Which contradicts with the opinion of some people where the immigrants come in, they have a bunch of kids, and then they just take social service. Because
Yeah, those are mainly the locals that do that, not the immigrants.
No, I agree, but like the point is they only care when immigrants do it.
Yeah, fair.
And like the thing is, I guess, look, for the most part, when I see immigrants in Canada, they're striving to build a business, they're striving to build a career, they're striving to provide good money for their kids. But I have seen that thing where, they mooch off social services and that stuff. My opinion on it is if you are a bum in the Middle East and you immigrate to Canada, you're going to be a bum in Canada.
Yeah, mainly, maybe.
Because
it depends. It depends on a lot of things. Like, what do you mean by a bum in the Middle East? Like, in what way?
People who are going by on the bare minimum, people who aren't ambitious, people who, again, they do take the government service and then they just find a way to make that last. I don't know if you've noticed, but like even among the Lebanese community, even among the Arab community, when I was living in Montreal, there were people who admittedly were just taking government handouts and they were just happy with that. They didn't need more. They watched TV every day. They played backgammon. They talked about old stories of glory days, and that's it. That's all they needed.
I think then you would also need to take into account the familial culture, because like you have the general culture like around, and then you have the culture within the family and the household, right?
Yeah.
So what expectations you grew up with within your family also determines how much you expect from yourself as you grow up.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Okay, so then moving on to the next question. When you moved to Canada, how
Mhm.
was it? And was there any culture shock? Like, what shocked you? Weather
Uh,
doesn't count.
what doesn't count?
Cold.
Cold.
I'm
No,
so tired of that answer.
I think I think the biggest culture shock. Here's the thing. We grew up in Dubai,
Mm.
right? So unfortunately, but also fortunately, our standards of like what to expect in life are pretty high. Like the standard for what is good is like, so let's say someone moves goes from here to Dubai and they see how the country is there, they would be in awe. But to us, that's normal. Like the country is what it is, what it is. It's just Dubai. You know, that's the country we grew up in. So seeing how this country really strives on mediocrity is
No
is
offense,
probably,
Canadians.
yeah, I'm sorry, but oh my fucking, the more bare average something is, the more hype it gets for some reason. You know, if something is like exquisite, which is very rare, it tends to be so they one thing I also noticed is that there's a really toxic culture of shitting on anything you cannot be part of.
Like,
Like it's
what do you mean?
like it's okay. So if something is more expensive, the quality is better, it's more expensive, it's more like out there. It really gets shit on a lot of time by the mediocre people,
But what
which
kind of
are them,
expensive things?
which so let's say food, right? Let's say
Yeah.
there's an expensive restaurant, Michelin star. Okay. Um, people here will not hype that place up. They will not. Even if they go and the food is remarkable. The first thing that will come out of their mouth is like, yeah, but it's a bit too expensive, maybe not worth the money, things like that. Uh, not a big fan of the that idea because I think another thing is how much importance they place on money here, whereas in Dubai, where you grow up with a lot of it everywhere, you really learn that money does come and go. Um, it's just a matter of how you attract it into your life,
Like how you earn
and
it.
not just how you earn, but also how you give it away. Like
Yeah.
I really do believe in like the law of reciprocation, you know. So if you don't treat money as if it's something that you need to hold on to, it will always come to you. Because, and I'm not saying if you spend it, you're just spending it here for fun, but like if you actually spend it just to help out every once in a while without even thinking, that money is gonna come back to you. You know, like I was in like Dollarama the other day, right? They were out of bags. I'm like, and they had like this offer, like three small Easter bags for like $1.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, fine, I'll just take those. You know, I want to put myself, and like there's an old guy next to me. He's buying a few like bits of like chocolates and that probably for his family, and they don't have bags, and he's like trying to put them in his pockets. Like, I just got three bags, bro. Here's one. And he's like, okay, like how much do you want from it? I'm like, what do you mean how much? I got three of them for $1, bro. Like,
Canadians are very stingy.
yeah, but it's but this I was sure this guy wasn't Canadian. He looked very Arab, you know. Um,
I guess
but
like
like, but I gave that to him, and he's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And he's like, "Thank you." I'm like, "No worries, it's just a bag." And then the cashier was more shocked than the guy. The cashier was like, "Yo, that was like really nice of you." And I'm in my head, I'm like, "Yo, I just gave him something worth 30 cents. It's not that deep, man. You
no, but
know,
like
like."
Adrian, the thing is in Canada, I don't know if you noticed this. People are very stingy. They count pennies. They don't really, they give their time. They're friendly with you, but they don't give things.
Yeah, and I think that was my biggest culture shock.
Yeah.
How
When I was
how
in
a lot of
university, bro, I was buying beers for everyone. Not because I was rich, I was not, but because, in the Middle East, even when you share one day, other people
someone
will
else is
share
gonna.
another day. They can be your friends or strangers, they will still share. There's a communal sense. In Canada, it's like, bro, like I don't smoke, but I hang out around smokers. Every time, like a guy will be like, "Hey, buddy, I'll give you $1 for a cigarette." Not to me, but to people I'm around, and it's like, bro, why don't you just give him a cigarette? You got like 20. They're stingy. They don't like sharing resources,
Yeah,
and
I
when
think
it happens, it's not like it's appreciate. There is appreciation, but what's sad is that before the appreciation of receiving something, there's shock, and then there's like, oh, that's weird. It's like, why share?
yeah,
It's just stuff.
yeah, it's really like, again, there I think the top three things that really shocked me was that like basically the whole individualistic collectivistic culture differences.
Mhm.
Um
I want to get into that after
how
you make your points.
we talk about Canada being so nice when you're actually nice to someone, the response is confusion and sometimes like, okay, but why? Like there must be something else. Like, I'll give you a very simple example. If you call any establishment and you answer the phone with like, hey, how are you? To the person who picked up, and you just like talk to them kindly, like, oh, thank you so much for your help, like, I get this isn't your fault, I know that this isn't, because it most of the time the person on the phone, it's not their fault, it's something in the system that's fucked up,
Yeah.
right? And you go like, listen, I know it's not your fault, but like, can you help me out, like, and if they can't, instead of yelling at them, you go like, okay man, no worries, can you just escalate this, and like, I appreciate all your help so far. They'll like pause and genuinely thank you because you didn't just make their life a bit worse for that day, and the fact that you actually can hear this pause and hear them appreciating you being nice, like it's not something that happens every day, is on one hand heartbreaking, on the other really strange.
Bro, I think it comes back to what you said in the beginning, individualism versus community. And what I mean is, look, in the Middle East, things are communal. Because we don't depend on government, because there's a lot of real, actual problems in terms of electricity, civil war. I'm not going to say disease. That's not really a big deal here. Like in the Middle East, I'm not talking about like Africa or East Asia. Because because we're stronger as a community and can support each other as a community, we're nice to each other. Where we get now nice. Remember this word nice. We're nice. We're not friendly. We're nice.
We're kind.
Share our I'll clarify. We'll share our resources. We'll help people in need. We'll give away food, things like this. But like also because we kind of take it as a given that other people will do that for us.
Mhm.
It keeps coming back. It circles around. In Canada and I feel also in North America and Europe, there is no community. There is no like this sense of mutual benefit. I'm not going to say it's everyone out for themselves, but it's a sense of individualism where everything you own is your own resource for the betterment of only yourself because no one else is there to back you up. Like your parents, and this is a bit of a generalization, but your parents kick you out at 18, your friends can easily stab you in the back. If your company fires you, like you're on your own, you live by yourself. So you're not going to be passing around cigarettes because you got a limited amount of money. Because you have a limited amount of money, you're not going to be sharing beer because it's expensive and you don't expect another person to share it back. You have no obligation or sense of community where if you give, it comes back to you. No, you pay your obligatory taxes. The government owes you services in return. And whatever money you have is just for self spending. Sometimes you have a significant other, and sometimes you make a family with that significant other. But aside from that, I feel like there's this mentality of beyond this little circle, it's a dog eat dog world. And that's where I talk about, that's why I want to talk about nice versus friendliness. Canadians are not nice. They are friendly. They're easy to talk with. They're not
Mhm.
going to stare at you weird if you just talk to them randomly as a stranger. It's easy to become an acquaintance or a friend with them. And they're not really like closed off if they've never seen you before. It's different in the Middle East. If a person is your guest, you take care of them, but no one really just talks to you off the street unless they're trying to sell something.
Mhm.
But like, that's the thing. My opinion, Canadians are mainly friendly. What they're not nice. Because for me, nice is like has to do with like sharing resources, having each other's backs, supporting each other, giving, and not expecting like the what you give to just disappear into the void. Because like I've seen times where people I've been friendly with, guess what? They talked. People who have been friendly with me, guess what? They talked a lot of shit behind my back. People who have been friendly with me, or others, guess what? When that person was in danger in a fight, they literally like ran away. They didn't like stop, de-escalate, or even like protect the other person. And bro, like no one covers the check. Like Canadians will literally have big arguments with each other over like, bro, I only bought this. I should only pay this. You are paying 5 cents less than me. You have to pay your fair amount and all that stuff. Because again, Canadians seem insecure when sharing their resources because they're scared it will take away from their individual life.
Mhm.
The stranger on the streets is not going to protect you.
Yeah. And the third thing, again, goes into the collective
Hell, I want your opinion on
individual
what I just said.
culture. I agree with what you said. I think it does have to do with that. Um, but it also links to what I'm about to say. The idea of I don't care what people think is such a lie here that they tell themselves.
Oh, they care.
And on top of everything, here's the thing. They on one hand they care what people think, but also on the other, it's a different way with how they care. So in the Middle East, in collectivistic societies, what I've seen is that we care about what people think in order to preserve social harmony, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you can go and have public displays of affection. So you can wear whatever you want and go out, but that is going to disturb a lot of people, you know?
How
And
so?
you can say, well, fuck those people. Well, also, fuck you. Why is it that a lot of people need to feel uncomfortable because you need to feel comfortable?
Hmm.
You know? However,
Can you give
here,
us some examples?
if you are making out in public, not like giving someone a kiss or like a peck, but like Frenching in
In the
public, a
Middle
lot of
East?
people, anywhere.
Okay.
But let's say with the Middle East, because I'm the type of person who finds that a bit, it's uncomfortable, but you do you.
Yeah.
That's basically how
Doesn't
I
ruin
live
your
my
life.
life. Like I'm living my life as long as you're not impacting me personally. Do your thing. If I'm uncomfortable, I'm moving away. That's on me to deal with, not on you, right? But that's the idea that they have. So if someone starts fucking Frenching the girl in a mall, right? And you have families and kids and conservative families, kids where this is not a topic that you just bring up just because, there's a topic that is brought up within a familial context, things like that. You've just
Over
disturbed
time.
five, yeah, like at a minimum, you've disturbed 2 to 3 people, at a maximum 20 around you,
Mm.
right? Maybe more. But anyway, you've just made other people feel uncomfortable, right? So the laws in place are like, listen, this is something you can avoid, so just don't do it. And that's the law now.
Yeah, it's like you don't need
Because
to be making out in the middle of a mall around kids.
exactly. Because if you do make out in the middle of the mall around kids, it's not something that I can avoid if I'm there.
Hmm.
I can't avoid you doing it in front of me. I can turn around, but I've already seen
But that's like a
it.
social responsibility that's not
Exactly.
present in Canadian culture.
In
Or at
Canadian
least,
culture, the
or at least
social
I want to
structure.
say in current Canadian culture,
Mm.
because previous Canadian culture is something to be respected, and that's something I might bring up later.
I'm not educated enough to have an input on that topic, so I'd love to hear your perspective. Here what I've seen, it's sort of reverses. It's like I'm gonna do what I want, and it if you have a problem with it, it's your problem, right? That's something I also understand, right? But you're also inviting friction. You're also inviting, like, okay, you wanna wear what you want. But at the same time, you're also imposing this idea that I get to do what I want and there's nothing you can do about it.
So there's like a
And
lack of social consent,
yes,
even though consent is a big thing to them.
yes, but only personal consent.
Yeah, because like, bro, for them, it's like what I don't like about Canada and Canadians, because I know there are Canadian viewers, even some American viewers. You guys have to admit you value the individual. Well, maybe not you personally, but your culture values the individual over the community.
But also to add to that, um, they there's also a lack of information that they are willing to give people, which I still don't understand.
What do you mean?
So, so in the Middle East, they tell you, don't do this. Here's the culture. This is what's wrong, and this is how we see it. Therefore, this is why you can't do that. Here, it's like I want to do what I want. Okay, but I want to. But why? Why do you want to dress this way? Because that's how I feel, and you do not have the right to inquire any further if I don't want to elaborate any further.
Hmm.
So, regardless of what I do that's making me feel good, you have to get over everything that I am that's making you feel distress because I don't want to feel any distress. So, do you see this loop that they put themselves into? So on they also don't want to educate people on like the actual core meaning behind these behaviors. And that is going to continue to cause friction. And our only response is some people are going to be this way.
But
And
the
it's like,
thing
yeah,
is,
but why?
Adrian, the thing from my point of view, they don't want to educate people on the core meaning behind these behaviors, like you said, making out in front of kids at the mall, or let's talk about things that actually happen, like in pride festivals, literally wearing thongs in front of kids
Yep.
or stuff like that. Or I've seen even in Canada, people will just scream and blare music in public and like on the streets. They'll do behavior that's like, dude, do it in your own house. Why the hell are you taking it on the streets? And back to what you said, the reason they don't explain, and this is my opinion, the reason Canadians and North Americans and Eastern European, not Eastern, Western Europeans who engage in this behavior don't explain why they are engaging in this behavior is because there is, my opinion, no substance to this behavior. It's a simple act of rebellion in a place where there's no need for rebellion because everything is so secure that you've gotten to a point where you feel empty in your life. So you want to engage in these easy acts of rebellion. But as we discussed, if you're engaging in like making out in front of kids, if at festivals you're engaging in nudity in front of kids, if you're committing lewd acts in front of kids, that's inappropriate. If you're just wearing regular attire, no matter what your background is, and someone thinks it's inappropriate, that's their problem. But there is a sense of decency that all people, in my opinion, should engage in, a sense of public responsibility to not dress in a lewd way in front of children. They haven't
Okay.
developed sexually. They don't know what that is. You don't want their parents to answer these questions way before these kids are thinking about it. So why go and act in such a provocative way? And that's the key word, provocative. Many of these people who wear whatever their background is, when they dress in certain ways that are rebellious, skimpy or offensive language, or if you have religious figures that are portrayed like horribly or comedically, you're not, you're, in my opinion, you're not there to express your true beliefs. You're there to provoke, you're there to antagonize, you're there to specifically make people feel uncomfortable and sometimes even angry. And it's like, why? Why? When people commit acts of rebellion where we're from, where in other places that aren't as advanced, they're doing so because it's a threat to their life, it's a threat to their family. They're protesting because they don't have medicine. They're protesting because they don't have electricity, food. They're protesting or they're defending themselves because there's a war going on. But in North America, in some causes, there are causes that should be fought for, like indigenous infrastructure, like environmental activism. I get that. But in some causes where it's totally based on your personal sense of identity, which the law doesn't stop anyways, you're not fighting for something you need to protect. You're fighting to provoke and bring attention to yourself because you feel there's a void. And instead of going for a difficult cause like genital mutilation in children, instead of going for sexual assault of other people, instead of improving prison standards, instead of improving health standards, instead of anti-war, you're going for something easy where you can become the main attraction and demand attention that makes other people uncomfortable. I apologize for being a bit heated, viewers, but this is something I feel strongly about.
I appreciate what you said.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I agree with a lot of what you said. But I don't feel that I've been in this environment long enough to have that much of an opinion, nor do I want to like express an opinion of a peoples that I honestly don't have enough exposure to.
And
Like
that's a
all
fair
I,
point, and I
but
respect it.
all, yeah, all I know about what you've said and how these behaviors have been is through social media, through TV, through online outlets. I've never experienced it. I've like this is something still very new to me since I've moved here. I have my opinions from a psychological point of view, but I would prefer not to like come at this and from like the fallacy of authority since I've
What do you
just got
mean fallacy of authority?
like, oh, I'm a psychologist, I've studied this, therefore
Oh,
this is what I think is correct. No,
yeah.
I may be completely off. I also do not have enough experience in the field to justify me giving a professional opinion.
My general opinion on this is, even though some people aren't experts, even though some people may have not experienced certain topics, it doesn't prevent them from having an opinion.
No, I do have an opinion, and like I said, I agree with a
Yeah,
lot of what you said. But that is actually the extent of my opinion.
I respect that. So before I move on to the next question, Adrian, I just want to clarify, like, what irritates me and makes me angry in North America is that politicians are weaponizing shallow causes, easy causes, non-problems,
Whatever makes money.
whatever makes money, and whatever fuels division, because people focus on these problems of identity, of race, of sexuality, of all these things, rather than focusing on improving water quality, on improving the job market, on improving energy sustainability, on improving the environment, on preventing war, actual difficult, expensive problems for these politicians, like that the politicians don't really want you to focus on. People are so caught up in pronouns, they're not caught up in the fact that Trudeau is giving weapons to other countries. People are so focused on gender identity, they're not focusing on the fact that the indigenous haven't had clean water for generations. They're so focused on like, I don't know, like honey boo boo topics, you know, something that's like, okay, it's fun to watch, but it's not a real thing affecting you, that they're not focusing on the fact that Canada has one of the worst healthcare, has some of the worst healthcare standards even though it's free. Okay, it's free, we get it, but it has some of the worst healthcare standards among advanced nations, and that's thousands, I'm not sure about the exact number, but thousands of Canadians die every year because they get diagnosed late, because there's such a huge waiting line, because the machines we have aren't up to standards, and because it takes forever to get a prescription or a diagnosis. Like, we're focusing on non-problems, and I say this as a Canadian because now I'm Canadian. We're focusing on these non-problems, we're ignoring actual problems which people in other countries wish they could focus on. And that's my spiel on it.
I mean, I think we've talked about this before. It's a first
Yeah.
world country with third world problems.
Yeah. And people still think they're a first world country. It's like, no, in these areas, healthcare, environment, infrastructure, no, Canada is definitely not first world based on my experience.
Bro, Syria is first world in terms of healthcare. They have had a um they've basically had a Western like what's the word? Is it an embargo
Embargo,
or yeah, where they like get no resources and they're
sanctions. Yeah.
still sanctions and they're still like functioning. They're still creating medicine and figuring out how to with minimal basic resources
Exactly.
and
Bro, if sorry to interrupt, but like, if people want to see an example of first world, come to freaking Dubai, come to the UAE. Infrastructure is excellent, healthcare is excellent, everything, like, if there are problems like any other country, but security is excellent, and they have all this without the needs for political parties, without the need for divisive rhetoric, without the need for like a various different identities and pronouns and like divisions. Canada, North America, Western Europe, with respect to the people, they feel like they think they're first world, but no, they're not. That's just residual pride without looking at what's actually crumbling around them in terms of infrastructure and all that.
I think a lot that actually goes into it as well is how rich the country is.
What do you mean?
Dubai's government is rich. They have money. The US has money based on product that it needs money to make. The US is in debt to itself, right? Dubai has resources, the UAE has resources that they sold. It's not like they needed money to get resources and then sell it. No, the resources were available. They sold them, made money, used that money to create. So I think that's also a huge, huge factor to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Because meaning that a true first world country is what Dubai is.
Yeah.
A true first world country.
Well, you mean UAE? Dubai is this.
Yeah, UAE. UAE, even Saudi's first world, they just really, really culturally conservative.
It's getting there for sure in Saudi.
It's getting more open, but they're still within their culture, but they have the capacity to technologically, societally, culturally be better than a lot of other countries
But you want to know what
because
I
they
believe?
have the money for that.
But you want to know what I believe is the difference between Saudi, UAE, and most of the Middle East and the West in terms of why their success?
It's because they partnered with the West and the West were like, okay, you do your own thing as long as you let us
hello,
get money.
that's like a political economic tie. But like, my point is, in the UAE and Saudi and other similar countries, I don't think, by the way, I don't think it's the case in Lebanon. I think that's a big problem in Lebanon, what I'm about to say. So don't think I have Lebanese pride. I don't. In the UAE and in Saudi, people are proud, the locals are proud to be Emirati. And I'm not so sure about Saudi, but from what I've seen, they're proud to be Saudi. They consider the country's success as the success of the nation of that country, of the people's success. UAE, in my opinion, the sheikhs recognize that a thriving marketplace benefits themselves, and a good thing is that it benefits immigrants. Canada, I see no such thing. I don't see Canadians, I see some, I don't see all. I don't see Canadians being proud of being Canadians. I don't see Canadians thinking like a strong economy, strong infrastructure, all this stuff will benefit Canada. I see Canadians voting not based on what is good for Canada, not based on what is good for their neighbors and community, and ultimately that will come back down to what's good for them. They focus on their immediate needs and their immediate ego. They vote based on what division of Canada they are. They vote based on what identity they hold, not a Canadian identity, but like a personal identity. They vote based on these things, and when their politicians make decisions, they don't make decisions based on the good of all of Canada. They make decisions based on what's good for their electorates. Conservatives make decisions based on what's good for conservatives. Greens make decisions based on what's good for students and whoever votes for them. Liberals make decisions based on what is good for liberals, for their voters, which is like none of these is a majority of Canada. These are all divisions. No one is making things that are good for no one is making decisions that are good for the average Canadian. They're not building better infrastructure. They're not making hospitals better. They're not providing better free education, because guess what? Education in Canada is not free. These are loans. They're not basing decisions on what improves your standards of living. These lawmakers are passing decisions based on whatever satisfies your identity ego. And then in the meanwhile, they're pocketing between 20 to whatever percent of your paycheck without returning it in a meaningful way.
I mean, I can give a very solid example of how Dubai particularly made moves to be accommodating versus what
Please
they
do
do
so.
here. So like everyone knows how culturally the country follows Sharia law.
Yeah.
They don't need to allow for alcohol to be present in the country. They don't. They allow for it within reason. They allow for clubs to exist as long as you dress appropriately. They allow for a lot of things that in Islam and according to Sharia law um, may cause contradictions, may cause clashes, because they know that their market and their country can strive and get better with foreign influence, foreign entry, and
investment.
foreign investment and all of that. And that is the country going like, you know what, we're gonna make compromises so that we can make the country better using the people who are going to come here and help us make it better.
Yeah.
As opposed to how Canada sees it, which is we are great. You should feel privileged to be here. You will come here, and if you graduated from somewhere else, we don't really recognize that. You need to work on accrediting that so that you have a Canadian degree, and then we can consider you for employment within that specific uh, field.
Jinx.
So it's like, so what are you doing with regards to actually using your capacity to bring in immigrants, to bring in different ideas, bring in different perspectives, rather than using that to create a more blossoming society? You are suffocating their own culture and
Wait,
demanding
whose
that
culture?
any immigrants.
Okay.
Like, and I don't say they're doing it with immediate effect. It happens within the long term. So first generation, it doesn't happen. It happens in the second, third, and further down the line, through the educational system and all of that. But rather than using this power of immigration policy that can bring in foreign investment, that can boost your market potential, you are sort of bringing them in and then making them feel like every other person here, which is already trash.
Yeah.
So, and to loop back to what I had said, like here's how the the culture is being suffocated. Okay, people are gonna be there's Little Italy, there's Chinatown, there's all of these. Yeah, okay. What is this fluff? This is basically a few older generations of Asians and
Mm.
of Arabs and of Italians that have grown up just knowing that they're Italian, just knowing that they're Asian, just knowing that they're Arab, but have nothing more than that. And then as their parents and their grandparents no longer live, they also no longer have any culture to pass down to their kids who are in Canadian schools being taught Canadian culture.
No, but there is no, but they're not being taught Canadian culture.
They're being
They're being
taught no
taught that
culture
there's no
at
culture.
all. Exactly. That is Canadian culture.
That is, yeah, like that's current Canadian culture. Canadians used to have a crazy culture, like a good one. Conservative values, hard work, surviving in the wilderness, fucking lumberjacks, first people to land on the beaches in both world wars, traveling around the countries to protect people on peacekeeping missions. This was like genuinely good Canadian culture. Now it's different. Now it's
Mm.
not even Canadian culture. It's like some weird secular ideology where only your skin matters. And your skin only determines if you're privileged or not privileged.
That's bullshit.
Exactly.
That's so bullshit.
But my concern is that during my time in Canada, what I saw was they're saying stuff like we are racist. Like no, like they're confessing. And it's like you're not racist just because you're white. And then it's like we have abused minorities. It's like no, you weren't alive during then. And then it's the opposite, where it's like we are being racially profiled. I'm like, you're not
But
just
then,
being racially profiled. Like I don't see it. And it's like we have suffered. And it's like you weren't alive during slavery. You weren't alive during like the attacks on the natives and indigenous. Like,
and then their
bro,
way of fixing it,
none of you guys were there, and none of you guys are doing that now.
bro, and then their way of fixing it is further racial profiling,
Yeah,
which
further
makes
segregation.
no sense. It's like, okay, now we're going to like add quotas for like people of color.
Hmm?
Okay, and those quotas need to be met. Well, let's take an example of a university, right? There are certain standards for you to be able to enter this university. If the quota is not met, they need to lower the standard so that people are able to enter, right?
Hmm.
In order for them to meet the quota. What you're doing in this case is two things, which I don't think are great. One, you're allowing people to come in who aren't in the same level as others who were able to get in the regular way, whether black, white, Asian, Arab, whatever. You're allowing people who weren't able to get into in the regular way to get in, meaning you're giving preferential treatment, which is exactly what racism is, right? Not racism, discrimination.
This,
Two, if they weren't able to get in the regular way, then how will they be successful in that school?
yeah,
So you're setting them also up for failure and then saying, well, we let these people in and they clearly failed. No, you're letting people who couldn't get in
shouldn't
to
have got it.
satisfy your own moral agenda. And then they're failing because they're in a school that they couldn't get into anyway.
Yeah, bro. What happens is you've made a situation where you've actually turned one specific where you've turned the majority of an ethnicity, whichever one was let in, despite lower grades, you've now made it appear like that ethnicity has a lower level of intelligence
Yep.
in a field where everyone should have the same level of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, that's how it is. It's like empty promises. They're not improving buildings in black neighborhoods, Arab neighborhoods, Indian neighborhoods, native neighborhoods. They're not improving actual things. They're just imposing like words on others. They're just imposing standards on others, but the government never actually improves the situation.
Yep.
But okay, since we have digressed a bit from the question, so like let's might as well go to the next one. Hello, okay, you had culture shock, and that was basically everything we discussed so far, more or less. Did they have culture shock? Did the Canadians have culture shock from you?
Yeah, bro, and that goes into when we were talking about just being genuinely nice and being like um hospitable.
Hmm.
So even when I tell people, like, let's say I'm inviting someone over for like a movie night, and I go like, hey, what do you like to drink and all of that, they go like, why? What do you have? And it's like, no, no, I want to know what you like so that I can accommodate for this, right? That's what being a host is.
Hmm.
Whereas, so like there was that, like them taking just to me is just how you're supposed to act to another person as something very different might is the culture shock that they felt. And then when they find out you're from Dubai and they go like, oh, like that's my dream and blah blah, like, and how is it there? And you tell them like how it actually is. Like, yes, there's beautiful sides to Dubai, but there's also the grind, there's also the hustle. It's not easy living there.
Yeah,
It's not easy. There it's dog eat dog, and no one cares what color you are. No one cares what gender you're not offered any fucking privilege
I just want to say in
unless
the
you know
Middle
someone.
East, I just want to say in the Middle East, it's a thing of no one's racist because everyone's racist.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like we like this person more than this, but no, we hate everyone equally.
Everybody. And if
You know,
anyone wants to say only white people are racist, I think that person's a dumbass.
yeah, you don't. I don't think they understand. Like, you can be a good person and a bad person, based on where you're from, depending on what you're doing. For example, um, I'll say I'll say Syria as an example. Uh, Someone gets aggressive in a work environment. Ma, Suri.
Yeah.
Same exact person closes like $1 million deal. Suri. He knows what he's doing. You know, so we basically throw around racism like just as a reason to be disappointed or justify that someone is doing or isn't doing something.
Bro, can I
But
say why I think it is that way?
because it's a tribal thing.
No, but it's not just that. It's because there are worse problems than racism where we live, worse immediate problems, literally to do with medicine, electricity, food, water, war. So it's like, who gives a shit if someone doesn't like you
Yeah.
for a dumb reason? And secondly, it's like if two people, Adrian, nails,
Mm.
if two people walk into a bar here and start complaining about atrocities against the ancestors, it's like my ancestors were enslaved. Oh, so were mine. My ancestors killed a bunch of people. Oh, so were mine. My ancestors had their land taken. Oh, so did mine. My ancestors have taken land. Oh, so did mine. So it's like no one's special. Everybody's ancestors have either been conquerors or conquered, murdered or murderers, slaves or slavers. Like it doesn't matter. Every single culture has experienced this.
Yeah.
So like here it's like, oh, that person is racist. Did he hit you? No. Did he steal your shit? No. Did he harm you in any way aside from your feelings? No. Shut up and move on with your life. You got work tomorrow.
Facts.
Exactly. And bro, like I
Bro, I
have
think the
experienced
biggest
racism in Canada. Like, I just want to say
bro,
this, Adrian. I apologize.
yeah.
I have experienced racism in Canada. I literally have had people call me like the worst names. I've had people tell me don't touch their women. I've even had relationships where it had to end or someone ended it because people around them didn't like where I came from. I've had
Bro,
all
I've
that.
I've
But these
experienced
were, but bro, but these were individuals. They were one offs. They were racist, not because of any true sense of racism, but because of insecurities, unresolved insecurities. It wasn't typical for the rest of the population. It wasn't systematic. It wasn't a true detriment to my life, aside from maybe my feelings getting hurt. It wasn't a real problem. I moved on. And one day, you know what? Maybe that person won't be a racist anymore. Inshallah. But the point is, like, it's not to the level where people are hanging me, burning my lawn, attacking me. There's no law saying an Arab can't be successful. So it's like, you want to talk about blacks in the 60s? Yes, racism existed. You want to talk about blacks in the 1860s? Yes, slavery. You want to talk about indigenous in those times? Yes, they got their lands taken. You want to talk about indigenous now? Yes, their infrastructure is horrible. They don't have drinking water. But you want to talk about like a black person now, an Arab person now, an Indian person now, a Jewish person now in Canada? Don't tell me racism is such a huge problem. If you're not being assaulted, if you're not being barred from certain places, if you're not like having like people attacking you on the streets, don't tell me racism is a problem to anything beyond your feelings and then that person's own personal life, the racist's personal life.
Bro, I'm just gonna say one thing. Um, it's remarkable how the racism perspective is seen from like a white person's perspective compared to a person of color. And it's and they've really
Clarify.
made it well, they've really made it part of their own personality, just like they're making like their sexuality a part, like they're literally making a complete identity of themselves based on things that are very personal and people really don't care about,
And it's none of our
you
business.
know? Exactly. So like someone will make their sexuality their entire identity. Like I will dress this way, behave this way, so every single person knows that I am this, and they're just waiting for someone to be disapproving, you
Jesus.
know? And
They're
then
being provocative.
and even with like the whole racism perspective, the only people who cry um what's it called? Um fuck.
Racism?
No, cultural appropriation.
Oh,
The only people who cry that are white people. And it's like, why? My guy, you wear the same fucking thing. Like if I go down walking a sombrero and poncho down the street, I guarantee you only people who have been in white schools, like so Mexicans and South Americans who have been in like white indoctrinated schools will be like, that's cultural appropriation. You shouldn't be wearing that, right? And white people. If I wear that and I go down to Mexico, if I go down to like a Latin part of town where people are from that culture,
1 second.
and I go like,
Fucking hell, sneeze already. You know you want to. I hate that.
no worries. So if I go down to these Latin communities, where people are actually from that culture, older people, older generations who've moved here, and they see me wearing that, the only criticism I might get is telling me what the actual sombrero should look like, what the actual poncho should. They will look to correct any incorrect appropriations I'm wearing so that I look closer to their real culture because they're proud of it.
Yeah. Like
You
they
know,
don't want you to misrepresent.
exactly. It's not, they don't have a problem with you representing.
Yeah, dude, Arabs don't care about cultural appropriation. First of all, it's our
The,
numbers.
the
Like,
only
you
time
know,
the only time that the I think cultural appropriation is a problem is if you're wearing it to make fun of something. So if I'm
or
wearing a poncho,
monetizing it.
exactly. So if I'm wearing again the classical poncho sombrero combo, just to go and start drinking tequila and be a drunk idiot, and saying like, oh, this is, and saying like actually identifying that what I'm doing is typical of these people, that is appropriation, that is wrong, and that is racist. But the simple act of putting the clothes on and wearing it for no reason other than to put it and wear it, and even if it's a costume party, it's a costume party. You're identifying as something else. Shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
And
And
I've
it's,
had people
bro, and
get
it's
pissed off in
not
Dubai. I've had people get pissed off in Dubai when we
white
had
people.
no Mexican. And I was really confused, and I had to tell this person it's not that deep. Because I had like my white friend dressed up as like as Mexicans. It was a costume party. We were in teams, and they were Team Mexico. So they wore that, and she got offended. She's like, "They're not even Mexican." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a costume party. That's the point." I'm like, "You're not from the 1920s. Why are you dressed up like Great Gatsby party?"
Bro, most people, in my experience, from many different minorities, ethnicities, whatever you want to call them, they don't give a shit about this.
They don't. Do we have bigger problems? Like you've said, we have way bigger problems than how you want to dress. Like, bro, we've Arabs have been misrepresented in every single movie to this day.
Continue to be.
To this day.
The
We
only
don't.
people who are allowed to be bad guys in movies are Arabs now and other white people.
Yeah, but imagine we had the same response. Bro, we don't care. We make fun of it now.
Hmm?
Like, bro, I'll give you like here's something to everyone in the West that's watching this. This is the appropriate response to someone coming at you racially. Make it your own. How many of you call us uncivilized? We have a brand called the Uncivilized now. We will wear that on a t-shirt out of just to fucking take the piss. That's an appropriate response, not to go cry about it and demand that people stop calling you that. Let them call you that and make it your own.
I agree. And like, dude, even if someone is racist, they didn't touch you, they didn't burn your shit, they didn't murder you.
But it causes emotional distress.
Emotional distress. When I'm constipated, I have emotional distress.
Oh,
I'm not gonna
facts.
boycott constipation, man. Okay, maybe it's TMI right there. It's a big one today. My identity is damaged.
Does this make me gay?
Me poo.
As
Okay.
long as it's not on a bed. Talk about fucking taking.
Oh no, no, no.
Talk about
We're
someone
not
taking a
getting,
metaphor literally.
Adrian, we're
Oh
not
my god.
getting there. We will do a video based on that and have a discussion, but we're not getting to the Johnny Depp Amber Turd situation.
Fair, fair.
You hear that, people? Amber Turd. Everyone knows my side. Okay, so since I guess we did make some questions, which we kind of digressed a bit, but I still believe the discussion is of quality.
Yeah.
I think we got to
Quality.
be honest and say we are kind of bashing the bad parts of Canada. But since
Yeah.
there are bad parts, we have to admit there are good parts of Canada.
Let's
Like
do it. Part two.
Canadian viewers. No, we can do a big quick discussion right now.
All right.
Like to the Canadian viewers out there, we're not here just to trash Canada. We moved to Canada for a reason. Like we didn't leave the Middle East to bring the Middle East into Canada. There are valuable things of Canada that I personally, at least Adrian, do enjoy. And that's why I want to go into the next question. Adrian, what do you appreciate about Canada? What are the good things that Canadians should be proud of instead of the other stuff we mentioned?
Honestly, regardless of how much we shit on government and politics, at the end of the day, you will not go hungry unless you choose to.
Yeah.
You will be able to find a job unless you choose not to. You will be able to live a very average life with minimal effort. This is the one thing, and everyone will treat you the same. That's something that, well, again, unless you go into specific circles. So, like, if you're walking downtown, everyone, you're the same. If you go up to Westmount and you obviously don't look like someone who is from Westmount, you will feel out of place because people are gonna be like, "Who is this new person?" But that's very normal to anywhere you go
Yeah,
where
but
you're not
Westmount is a
from.
pretty closed off, privileged area. Like not privileged in like the identity sense, but like it's a rich people place.
Yeah, well, everyone is part of their own level in the hierarchy. That is the reality. You can see it at work. When I was a tester, I was close to all the testers. Now, when I'm a senior and working towards being a lead, I'm close to all the seniors and leads. When I become a lead and maybe a project manager, I'll be closer to the management circle. It's not because I am better than the hierarchy and the ones below. It's because I no longer have anything to identify with them, because the conversations are different, the the workload is different, the jokes are different, everything is different within that hierarchy, that I no longer can identify as one of the lower levels.
I just
And
want to
that's
get
how it is.
I just want to get back to what you said about how you will never be truly poor in Canada. Do you mean that even if things go wrong, even if you don't have a job, stuff like that, you will not experience like absolute poverty? Like you'll
If you
still
don't
have
choose
access
to.
to, like it, I'll get to that. Like you still have access to medicine, you still have access to government services, you still get like a monthly amount. You will not starve.
Yes, again, if everything, this is a country where they set everything up for you to choose where you want to be and how you want to get there.
Mm.
Okay. I came here literally with, I didn't know that I was gonna come and live here, right? Moved here, got got a job. So happy with the job that I got. I was so lucky. The people that are there, um, where I got to, like I'm very, very grateful for that. But it's an opportunity that was presented to a lot of people as well.
Yeah. Mafi
You
Wasta.
Muffy Wasta, bro,
I
my
just want to
dad
add, guys, to the non-Arabic viewers out there, wasta, like, and we discussed this on the Razmig
connections
video. Wasta basically means clout or connections or favors,
and
like
in.
the ability to get favors. So
Yeah.
if we say he has wasta in the Middle East, it means like in terms of like jobs, his uncle can get him a job, or his friends can get him jobs, or someone he knows can get him a job. If he has wasta when it comes to buying a car, someone can get him a cheaper price, someone can give him better car, someone can get him a discount. And if he has, what else is an example of wasta, Adrian?
Wasta is literally connections. He
Yeah,
has a guy.
they know a guy.
Wasta, yeah, Wasta is the guy. I have a guy.
Yeah, and in Canada there is wasta. Like if you know, there is wasta
But
can
you
be
have to
like a
be from here.
mechanic. Yeah, but like if you know a mechanic, if you know a doctor who can boost you up the waiting list, or a nurse, but there's no wasta preventing you from getting a good job.
Yeah.
Like no one is taking it instead of you because they know someone.
To a degree, but
To
yeah.
a degree.
But like I'll give you, like I'll be very direct. My dad, who had a company in Dubai, is now here. Um, did His English isn't great, his French isn't great. He learned more English, learned more French, now has a job as
Smallah.
a, yeah, like well done for him. At 63, 64, he's working his ass off, still still in the hustle, still getting a job, found a job that he genuinely enjoys. Because you can.
Bro,
If
it's the Arab
you look,
mindset.
it's 2 years after he moved here, he's finally found a job that he likes because it was available. My mom is now working as well. She works in import export, has no experience. They trained her, and now
Guys,
she's
this
doing
is
really
clearly
well.
an emotional story for Adrian. That's why he's choking up,
No,
expressing emotions.
I was
You can
hiccuping.
see the
Calm
tears
yourself.
coming down his face. This is a real heartfelt moment. So please show our respect to Adrian. And even though he's crying like a little bitch, let's appreciate his story.
Calm yourself. Um, so like you do have, it is a land of opportunity should you choose to find one.
Yeah.
If you are here and you're broke and I ask you what have you tried, chances are your answer is going to be nothing. Or you're waiting for something to come into your lap. You want a job, you can go be a cashier. You can go work at the post office. You can go work for the garbage disposal. You can, there are so many jobs you might think you're too good for, but pay the bills and pay them well. If you're
Yeah.
working, if you're working at Canada Post, where your job is to drive around town and then just put the parcels in the baskets in the boxes or whatever, you're making about $22 to $23 an hour.
I
That's
think the issue
that's
with Canada is like,
that's a decent amount of money. So, like I
but I
said,
just want to say it's not that Canadians cannot become engineers, cannot become doctors, cannot become lawyers, accountants, whatever. I think the issue with Canada is, and guys, ask your friends this. They don't want those jobs. They don't want to become a doctor. They don't want to become an engineer. And it's creating real deficits in the economy. It's creating real deficits in the market, which only immigrants could fill.
but if you want to talk about that, you also have to discuss the student debt issue. If you want to get there, how much it's going to cost you to be able to become one. So it's a multifaceted issue. It's not just people don't want to be doctors or don't want to be engineers. People aren't able to be doctors or engineers. There
I,
like there are things stopping you from being. I cannot get a master's degree. I cannot get one because I can't get accepted because I don't test well and my test results aren't great. Even though I know I am very confident that I would be one of the best psychologists should the opportunity present itself, but it doesn't. And even if I try, I know my chances, and that's what makes it demotivating. And that's what demotivates a lot of people. But
I get it, man.
honestly, it's also a blessing in disguise because it forces you to do things you didn't think you would want to do. And then see how you do there. Like, I didn't know how much I would love working the job that I would do right now.
Mm.
It's on paper, it sounds cool, it sounds fun. I can't really disclose exactly what we do at work, but I fucking love it. It is so
Okay.
much fun.
And
So yeah,
I'm guessing like that would have been more difficult in the Middle East because of Wasta.
no, that would have been more difficult in the Middle East because it's not considered a respectable job, therefore it doesn't bring in money.
Mm. Okay. So then that's what's good about Canada. There's no Wasta and there's no taboo.
There's
There's no ridicule.
there is wasta, there's no need for wasta.
Okay. What
That's the
else do you enjoy
difference.
about Canada?
Um, I think the fact that everyone's friendly, even though a lot of, even if, like we said, they're friendly, but they might stab you in the back, it means that you're never at a loss for a companion wherever you go.
It's it's easier to form social relationships with a stranger.
Yeah. And you've seen it firsthand when we've went out. My first night out, and like we made friends with the bartender. It took 2 seconds.
Yeah. And I did this, bro, when I was allowed in Canada, like I became friends with like the cashier at a depot, like at a dep. So that's like what do they call them in English? A convenience store?
Yeah.
Yeah, a convenience store. I made friends with my neighbors. I made friends with the bartenders. Some of the bartenders and bartendresses, if that's even a word, they were like some of my closest, I wouldn't say friends, but they were very easy to talk to. And we talked about a lot of stuff. Like it was, and most of my dating life was just literally meeting people at the coffee place, at the bar, on the streets. Like it was so easy to get to know people. And I
And I
think that's
think
what's good about Canada, one of the biggest pluses.
and I think another thing is that we grew up in a way where friendships are not are not transactional, right? The way that we grew up is we're friends because this is a good person. You know, it's not
Yeah.
we're friends because if I get this and then he gives me that and then I would do this. That's not how we form friendships. And that again, this is pro con here. I find that that isn't very common here. So when we show that it's not a transactional friendship type of thing, it really does get you like real friends, because they don't feel like they need to do anything for you.
Real in friends in the Middle East or in Canada?
In Canada, in the Middle East, it's a bit more difficult to make friends with no transactional uh underlying qualities there, unless you are in completely different fields.
Hmm.
Because as long as you're in the same field, again, the idea of wasta being so normal uh always puts a question mark on when will business intervene with friendship.
When will they call in that favor?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. And yeah, like Adrian, I want to ask
Hmm.
to give basically a summary of the whole video before we end it. What are 3 points in Canada's favor, and what are 3 points in Dubai's favor that are different from each other? If you can say them in like one sentence each.
Okay, Dubai. First thing, um, the culture there, collectivist. Everyone like you'll be great friends with a lot of people, and they'll always have you back. Um, money, good job that pays well when you have the background for it will be great in the long run. And three, just the standard of living. Like
Okay.
the standard of living is remarkable.
And now, what 3 things does Canada have going for it?
Weed. um the like you said, the friendliness. You can walk up to anyone anywhere, make a comment, ask if someone like needs help, and it's usually very open to that.
Yeah.
um I want to say education, because if you are a Canadian citizen, it's pretty cheap compared to if you're an international.
Oh, it's so expensive as an international.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, that's 3.
and well, yeah, but the weed one was a bit of a joke. The last one is the government, as much as you hate it, will have your back.
Hmm.
Like it won't let you die.
Hmm. As long as you die through a late cancer diagnosis, I guess.
Yeah, but that one, it won't let that in that case, it won't let you die unless you're poor.
Yeah.
Okay, which is the same case for every country in the world.
Yeah.
Because if you're
Okay.
not poor, you can pay and then you can go to a private hospital.
Fair. Okay. So now, given those nice points, I want to end with a bad note. So tell me, what's each country's biggest problem? One. If you had to summarize it in one issue, what is Canada's biggest problem and what is the UAE's biggest problem?
Um,
Let's start with Canada.
with the UAE one, the UAE's biggest problem is how readily they feel people are replaceable.
Okay. Could you clarify?
Canada's so they if if you lose a job because like you got into an argument with someone or like something happened in your company and you can't find another job, you have to leave because there's someone else who can come and take your place.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Even if given enough time there, with enough time networking, you could stay and then find a job that would benefit the country a lot more. You don't get that opportunity.
Hmm.
Because obviously they have once you're fired, they cancel your visa and you have to leave.
There's nothing tying you there, but I think that's changing now with new. They're trying to make now, instead of people being expats, which means they're there temporarily as long as they work, they're trying to turn them into immigrants.
Okay. Well, let's see what
The laws
happens.
are changing.
Let's see. But yeah, that's also a huge, huge, huge pro to Dubai is that they will change the law if they think it benefits everyone.
Yeah,
Not because, oh, these people are hurt, we should change the law because and make everyone else's lives a bit more inconvenient because a small group of people have an issue. There, there they
with
don't care.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada really cares about minority.
Yeah,
The UAE cares about majority. If the majority is happy, that's what counts because that's where everyone is. Let's be honest. That's why it's called the majority.
mhm.
One bad thing about Canada is that it's trash.
Be specific.
Bro, what's not trash? You want to go eat McDonald's, there's plastic in your food. You want to buy healthy food, you have to be earning about $25 an hour to be able to normally, on an everyday basis, eat healthy food. And even that isn't the healthiest alternative. The healthiest organic alternative would cost you a lot more.
Because of all the pesticides.
Because all the pesticides, all the hormones, all the bullshit. You have an abundance of stupid in this country.
Adrian, a
My guy, there
surplus, a
my
surplus.
my guy, there are people who are so against GMOs, and then you go like, what is a GMO? They go like, oh, it's just bad for you, man. It's like, okay, but why is it bad for you? Because it's not natural. I'm like, yeah, okay, nothing that you do is natural, my guy. Nothing. You using the toilet is not natural.
Okay.
Okay, bro, I'm telling you, this country, it offers everything, but it's all trash.
Bro, I just think it comes down to you've got a government that's offering the bare minimum, and
This country is the
you've got
definition
people
of,
not like paying attention to real problems.
yeah, this country is the definition of minimal effort.
Yeah,
Minimum wage, minimal effort, minimal country.
maximum entitlement.
Oh, fuck's sake.
So yeah, I asked you for one issue about Canada, and I believe you gave me three.
It's trash.
Okay, so and since we are concluding this video, Adrian, final remarks for Canadians.
um,
What message do you have to the proud Canadian people?
whatever it is that you think you're doing right, be better.
Okay, beautiful. Belongs in a fortune cookie.
Let's go.
Okay, so guys, that concludes our segment. I believe we wanted to focus on Adrian's experiences as an immigrant in Canada, and then ended up in a whole big
Welcome to Adrian's
discussion.
tangential speech episode.
I have no idea what you just said. So basically, in
Tangential
the
speech.
spirit of the Third Culture Rant, we have engaged in a rant between two peoples of the third culture. And frankly, I enjoyed it.
Likewise,
I
likewise.
want to say, Adrian, thank you for being on with us. Thank you for
Thank you
telling
for
us your
having me.
experiences and strongly worded opinions. Undoubtedly, I do want you on for future videos and other topics, not just shitting on Canada, but shitting elsewhere.
On the beds as well.
Perfect. And
Fantastic.
yeah, before we end this video, I do want to remind all the viewers, subscribers, people passing through YouTube to like, share, and subscribe this video, and comment down below. Adrian, point in the comments. Comment down below if you agree or disagree or want to add something to the discussion we just had. Yeah, so join our growing community on Instagram. The link will be down below. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and become part of our growing community, which, if I'm doing anything right, is a growing community. Thank you all for being here. Take care of yourselves. Don't be too hard on yourselves. And Canada's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Take it with a pinch of salt. I've just only experienced Canada during COVID. So
Yeah, yeah. Who
come
knows? It
back
might
to me in
even,
a
yeah,
come back to me in a year. Maybe the
it
trash would
might
have
be,
evolved.
who knows? It might even be worse than what you experienced. We don't know.
True,
Exactly.
true,
Canadians,
true.
we love you. We care about you. This is the ARB version of caring about you. So
Facts, tough love.
love, take care, guys. I consider this rant, ramble, discussion, controversy, blah, 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 over. Thank you for being with us, Adrian.
Happy to be here.